All right, welcome everyone. Terry Henner from the Savin Medical Library, University of Nevada, Reno. We're going to talk about the recent change to the NIH public policy submission mandate. Um, Objectives to just go over the key changes and discuss how it affects researchers and their workflow and your workflow, and also explore some resources and strategies that can help you stay in compliance with the changed policy. So the policy initially went into effect almost 17 years ago. It's like 2008. And in that time, really nothing has changed until a couple months ago. In July, they moved the date forward, and the main change is that instead of having 12 months, an embargo period to submit your manuscript to PubMed Central, you had no time. When your article was published, it needed to be submitted. So basically, two words that made a big difference in the policy, and the two words without embargo. So that's the story on the changes we're going to talk about. NIH has some lofty language about advancing science and improving human health, but basically what we're saying is that all articles that result from NIH-funded research must be made immediately available in PubMed Central. No 12-month embargo as they had in the past. Okay, one reminder too, just to clarify, open access alone does not meet the mandate requirements. Some people think, oh, I've published in an open access journal, it's freely available, I'm good. Well, that's not the case. You must deposit your article in PubMed Central to be in compliance. Now, the changes to the policy, you can go to NIH. This is a link to it, and it will tell you in great detail all about the policy requirements, what changes have been made. Uh, Basically, and this kind of spells it out, you could either submit the author-accepted manuscript to PubMed Central when it's accepted for publication, or with some journals, you could submit the final published article, depending on whether your journal has a formal agreement with NLM. I'm not sure what those formal agreements are or what that means, but there are kind of two different ways to accomplish compliance. One notable thing is that the policy really has as a linchpin the accepted publication date rather than the uh, publication date itself. So it talks about author-accepted manuscripts. They have to be accepted after July 1st to be affected by the new policy. And just so you know, in case you don't, the author-accepted manuscript is the final version of a paper. It's been peer-reviewed and accepted for publication, but they haven't done all the formal processing to make it ready for publication on a website. So this is a little wrinkle in the policy. If an article was accepted for publication prior to the change in the policy, and that's July 1st, 2025, but it is not yet published, then it's still subject to the original public access policy. So as long as it was accepted before July 1st, you have 12 months embargo, regardless of when it was actually published. Also, another wrinkle, the policy doesn't apply to articles that were generated by research if the grant closed before the change in policy. So say you have a grant and the grant expired in 2024 sometime, and then a year or two later you publish an article, that publication is not subject to the new policy. You would still have the embargo period because they look at the date that the grant was last in effect. Okay, so how are publishers responding to the new policy? Well, gold open access journals mostly unaffected. They do what they do. It's kind of like the valet service of journals. You pay the full freight. They publish your article, make it available immediately, deposit it in PubMed Central for you generally, and so they just carry on as they always have. However, the other journals, hybrid journals or green open access journals or whatever you want to call them, they've been adjusting their practices because, basically they're in a position to lose a lot of revenue. So they've been lowering article processing charges so they could compete with open access journals. They've been raising article processing charges to try and increase their revenue, to have a sustainable income. They're offering other options like surcharges to have a zero embargo open access um, platform. They're shifting to full open access models, and it could be that we will see the end of traditional subscription-based journals, and everyone will go to full open access uh, because of the NIH policy and the way it's driving the model. And then finally, some journals are just refusing to change. They're saying, we're going to keep doing it the way we do it. Um, this is from the Elsevier site, and they they say for some of the journals, they authorize the manuscripts public access posting 12 months after final publication. You publish in that journal, you're kind of out of luck. Now, is this is taken from their website, but is this still true? I can't say, because one thing I would caution you, and I'll make this point several times, things on the website change day to day. So you can't assume that what you read on a website is going to be true or consistent over time. So another website clip. This is Wiley saying that, uh, and this is interesting, and the firmness with which they state this, for NIH-funded articles accepted for publication in any of their hybrid journals, you only have one route to compliance. Okay, it's our way or the highway, and that route is to choose the open access publishing option that they provide. So what they're saying is you can publish in Journal of Physiology like you always did, but you're going to pay $5,000 article processing fee. And they also say if you want to publish in a subscription journal, you're responsible for ensuring compliance, and you need to contact them and see if compliance can actually be made, because in many cases, you're just out of luck. They won't let you have an embargo period. Okay, so author workflow, how does this affect researchers? Well, if you're a researcher or if you're helping a researcher, your first step is just to view their current practices of the publisher website. And I underscore current because this changes quickly. We're still in a huge state of flux. So don't rely on what the website says, or don't rely on what some other services say. Possibly it's not going to be accurate anymore. So you could go to the journal and go to journal policies and try and dig through it and find the answers to your questions. And then every journal has a whole host of tools that you can use and rules and regulations and policies. So you need to kind of delve into that and find out how to comply. And they tease you, like, curious about open access. And what they're saying is curious about paying $4,000 to publish your article. I mean, that's, they make it sound enticing, but really it's kind of a big payday for them in some cases. So there are author compliance tools. Uh, they don't make it easy to understand. There's certainly a lot of information on the website that you have to dig through and then tease out the germane parts of it. So Wiley has a lot of information about how to make your hybrid journal article open access, or publishing in a fully open access journal. You need to do a lot of homework in advance before you decide to send a manuscript to a particular journal. Now, this was just taken from one of the publisher websites. You'll see this statement a lot or something like it. If you have any questions regarding these policies, please contact the publications office. Always contact the publications office. Always verify their policies through direct communication. Because I found that the information, not just me, but other people found the information's often not accurate, not up to date. Or you'll do a search on, Chat GPT or DeepSeek and think you understand the policy, and it's not current or it's not correct. So your best bet, because then there are some downline kind of negative scenarios you can run into, always contact them. Make sure that you understand the policy as it currently exists. Another thing researchers should do, and you too, uh, as librarians helping them or as librarians submitting your own manuscripts, be familiar with the NIH submission process. There's a system, you create an account, you log in. I'm not going to talk you through that because NIH does a good job of making tutorials and talking you through it. But the reason you want to be familiar with this is that sometimes publishers, open access publishers, will submit your articles to PubMed Central for you. Some open access publishers don't. And if they don't, then it's up to you to upload the manuscript through the management submission system. So it's good to be prepared in case you're working with a journal that's not going to do the heavy lifting for you. So understand publisher policies up front, before you go to the trouble of sending a manuscript and then finding, you made a terrible mistake. Check, make sure you understand the policies. Here is from an FAQ. My article has already been published, but it doesn't comply with the funder's policy. What should I do? Well, it's kind of the barn door is closed on that one. Uh, the option they give you is, well, you could pay for open access. You may not have the funds available to pay for the open access fees. So you need to make sure that, when you're submitting a manuscript, that you will be in compliance by publishing in that particular journal. Okay, so again, understanding publisher terminology, the policy and the publishers talk about the accepted manuscript or the accepted author manuscript and the version of record. We've gone over the accepted author manuscript. That's, everything is proof or it's, I guess, peer reviewed and edited, but not copy edited or formatted. So this is the version that gets sent to PubMed Central. The version of record is the PDF that they put into the journal website. Sometimes you're violating copyright by sending the version of record to PubMed Central. So that's something that you want to be aware of. Okay, so how do you determine journal submission policies? Well, one of the easiest ways, and the way I'm going to start off with, excuse me, is going to PubMed Central and looking at their journal list. And this is a really easy way to do it. This is a list of all their titles. You could, if you chose, filter your results. Let's say you're just looking for microbiology journals and you want to find any journal that does not have an embargo and it has an active agreement statement and an agreement to deposit. You could check the right boxes and then filter your results a little. But we're not going to do that now. Just do a title search to show you what the details of the record are. And the important thing is, for you, the author, the release delay, is there an embargo? And yes, there is 12 months. And the agreement status is active, meaning they continue to agree to deposit articles. And the extent of the agreement, they will deposit all articles. So this is a very useful tool, easy to use, and a great starting point. Now, it's just important to know that you want to go to the publisher website. I mean, after you look it up in PubMed Central, go to the publisher website, try and nail down the details of the policy and understand, what they're saying and whether it's actually still current. So, you go to ASM and they tell you about journal embargo periods and which ones do and which ones don't. Uh, so, clearly there's still many journals that will not be compliant with NIH policy. They're freely accessible 12 months after final publication. Doesn't do you any good. Okay, so the Journal of Physiology, and this is interesting because that has no embargo period, right, which is a good thing, and it agrees to deposit all articles, but it is no longer participating. So you think, well, what does that mean, no longer participating? And honestly, I just looked this up in ChatGPT after I wasn't finding it in PubMed Central very easily. And according to them, it's a journal that used to have an active participation agreement, and it no longer does. So is this true? Is it correct? Probably, hopefully. Uh, I would validate that. Uh, the point is, don't don't always trust ChatGPT. I'm assuming this is correct. It may not be, but it probably is. But when you are trying to determine the status of a journal and their policies, rely on the primary source. Either rely on NIH's own text or the publisher website, their own text, and then to carry it one step further, contact the publisher, talk to them and ask, is this true? Is this your policy? Or I don't really understand what you're saying. Please clarify and expand on that. So another journal, Experimental Physiology, and you can see that there's no embargo, has an active status agreement, and depositing all articles. So I mean, this is what you want to look for. Basically, this is like all systems go, and you find a journal like this and think, I'm going to submit here. I'll be, good as far as compliance. Although again, always, verify that. Okay, another way to confirm journal subscription policies, there is a resource. You probably know it as Sherpa Romeo. It's a great name. Now it's changed to Open Policy Finder. And if you just Google Sherpa Romeo, you'll find it. You'll find it easily, but just in case, here's the URL to it down below. And you can see they say Open Policy Finder, formerly Sherpa Services. So they haven't abandoned that. It's kind of like Prince, the artist formerly known as, or whatever. Uh, so you go there and you can search for journal policies, which is ideal, right? So you search for a journal of investigative dermatology, and in the results, it shows you these various options, and these are not especially helpful. So you could see the option for a published article, uh, an option for embargoed articles. But what they do nicely, if you go to where? Go to open access compliance. You can look up a journal and select a funder, and it will tell you if you're in agreement or in compliance or not. However, the downside to this, it's only for the United Kingdom. So it's not going to tell you if you're in compliance with NIH. So don't get too excited about that, because here it says if your funder is Blood Cancer UK, you're in compliance. Great, but it's not helpful uh, to give a snap judgment about NIH. All right, so it has some value, but not, I, you know, the whole package, what you would really like to know. However, if you select journal policies, it has links to the journal itself. So down here, we policy links, publishing options, self-archiving and license to publish, et cetera, et cetera. So you could click on one of those links and it takes you to Nature. We're going to Nature Microbiology here. Not sure if that's an incorrect link or what. But it tells you your publishing options, that it has a traditional subscription model. It also has gold open access and more details about it, what kind of license the journal uses. You could select self-archiving and license to publish details, and it will tell you the author license policy and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So is this useful? Well, yeah, kind of. Could you find the information yourself just by going to the journal website? Well, you could. You just say, I want Nature Microbiology, go to the website and then dig down through information for authors, and you'll find the very same information that Sherpa Romeo is pointing to. It just may save you a little time and headache trying to find the correct information. Okay, I have talked fast, which is not unusual. This is the Point Arena Lighthouse on the California coast, and like the lighthouse, this is my time to say I hope I shed some light on the topic, some useful light, and cleared up any or some confusion or answered some questions you had about open access policy. So what we can do now is take the last 4 or 5 minutes for questions, if there are any. Uh, if not, this has been great. I appreciate all of you showing up.
Terry, it looks like there's some commentary in the
The
chat.
chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Should I try and go to that?
I had a question. It is my name is Hal Bright from AT Still University.
Okay. Hey, Hal.
I was wondering, do you find Sherpa, the new open access version of Sherpa Romeo, less useful? I find it less useful. I don't know why.
Yes. Well, I agree. And I know why. It has much less information about the nature of the open access journal itself,
Yeah.
the policies and details. Uh, Honestly, I'm not so impressed with the new version of Journal Finder, whatever it's calling itself. You could, I would recommend, if you want to save time, first go to the PubMed Central site, look up the journal there, and then go directly to the publisher's website to
Good
confirm
idea.
the information you just found. And I cannot stress strongly enough how important it is to not just go to the publisher website, but to contact the publisher afterwards to verify the information that you're seeing there, because it really changes. It changes a lot, or there are many instances where they had some information and they've taken it down, like the section you're hoping to find isn't there. So you have to do some digging and realize this kind of was a broadside to the publishing industry. And it's taking some time for them to kind of come back up to speed and figure out what they want to do. So their policy is very much in flux. Okay, well, thanks for the question. What else?
Diane is commenting that having worked for a publisher, she would recommend contact the publisher, do so in writing so that any response you receive will be in writing as well.
That's good advice. Or at least email, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. Jules says they have a faculty member who publishes frequently and is concerned. He's concerned about the costs, but also publishing in high quality journals. Is there a way to line up OA journals without a fee with high quality journals in various disciplines? She says they have some transformative agreements, but the faculty member wasn't interested in those journals. I will say on that, actually, my people have been wanting a low fee, high quality list. And if someone has a suggestion on how to make one, that would be awesome.
I don't know of any lists, although I don't know everything, but I don't know of a list that has those open access journals with low fees. We certainly get questions from our faculty, and even more from students and residents who don't have the funding to pay the fees. You know, if you're a researcher with $1 million grant, you could usually come up with the money to pay the article processing charges out of your grant. If you are a student, you don't have that opportunity. Let me say too that there was a notice from NIH fairly recently saying they're going to look with some scrutiny at the article processing charges that researchers are requesting they pay uh, because there's some gouging taking place. You know, I think we'll all agree that five or
Mhm.
$6,000 for an APC is going a little overboard. And so they're implying there's no cutoff and no definitive statement, but they're implying that if you're publishing in a journal that wants an exorbitant amount, that they may refuse that or not pay the full amount. So we'll see what happens, but that's certainly something to keep an eye on. You know, you
Actually,
may.
the
Oh, go
next
ahead.
question was about the NIH allowable processing costs and how people are advising. And then Beth said the NIH APC fees for grants is changing on January 1st. Aaron has recommended, she said not free, but Cabell's database in relevant disciplines, you can filter for search platform free OA. So there's people giving some suggestions in the comments. And it looks, yeah.
You know, yeah, Cabela's is, we don't subscribe to it, so it's not something that I'm too familiar with, but I know it offers some uh, other dimensions to the process that can be useful. Uh, Free open access, it's almost like a contradiction because someone has to pay the cost of publishing, right? And so unless it's maybe like a scholarly society that's kind of paying it and drawing funds from its membership, you're not going to find, I don't think, many open access journals that don't have processing fees or even reasonable ones. And of course, you know, the publishing model is turned on its head, and if you're publishing a journal and you're legitimate, you still need a revenue stream. Of course, if you're predatory, you don't deserve anything at all. But I think we just need to keep an eye on it. As far as the limitations on reimbursement by NIH, I'm not sure where that's going, but I'd advise anyone, pay attention to that issue and make sure that you can recover your costs. Okay, how are we doing? More questions? These have been great questions, by the way.
And lots of good comments in the chat. Thanks everyone for participating. Do we have any further questions? We're almost at the end of our 30 minutes, but you know, we can answer a few
Yeah,
questions if
I'm
there's
not
anything
I'm not
else.
going anywhere.
Yeah, Aaron's also mentioning that, you know, many universities are hosting their own open access journals. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens more and more as the fees keep getting out of hand. So
An open access, like State of Nevada Medicine Journal. My connection's unstable. Oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to say that.
oh, um, yeah, so all right, well, people are still commenting. I'm excited to see that. So since I don't see any more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and put the info for our survey feedback, which you will also get an email in a little bit, and info about our next presentation. I'm excited about this one.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I forgot. I had one last slide. What you can do to support researchers: be informed, advertise your expertise, be available for consultations, and do the legwork. If someone is submitting a manuscript and they want your help, you know, identifying journals or finding journals, understanding the policies, that's a good job, and it'll keep you busy. So do that. There we go. So here's our slide, right?
Yes.
What's next?
Yep. So all of that info is in the is in the chat right now. I'm excited about our next one. One of our colleagues who does disability access education agreed to do a snippet October 7th. So please feel free to sign up for that, or, you know, any of our others. We have filled up our calendar to a month through the end of this year. So you know, anyone who's agreed to put on a snippet, thank you so much. So.
All right. Well, thanks again. And if you learned something useful, let me know.